Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I want to talk for a bit about the Dallas Mavericks, who are currently in the midst of one of the most eventful and controversial off seasons out of anybody in the entire NBA. And this, of course, is coming on the heels of an NBA Finals appearance, their first in over a decade, where they beat some really tough teams in the Western Conference en route to eventually losing in 5 games to the stacked Boston Celtics. And it was a weird route that they took to make it to that point. If you remember the last deadline, they went ahead and added Kyrie Irving, which was a very polarizing move when it happened. A lot of people said they can't defend together. How is that going to work? A lot of other people loved it. I was a fan of the move, and then it didn't go great for the first half season. They really struggled to find any defensive footing. They ended up bottoming out at the end of the year to purposefully get into the lottery to keep their pick away from the Knicks, who they would have owed it to otherwise, and that allowed them to land Derek Lively, who ended up being huge for them this season, was an incredibly impactful rookie big. They traded for Daniel Gafford, traded for PJ Washington at the deadline, who are massive acquisitions, and every guy played a part, and them eventually making a run to the NBA Finals, with Luka having his best year of his career, and Kyrie Irving really starting to gel with him as the two of them dominated and started to build up headlines with people calling them one of the best backwards of all time throughout that playoff run. So a lot of promising stuff coming into the summer, but they clearly wanted to improve a little bit because the rest of the Western Conference is going to do so. It's a stacked West. It's really hard to make it back to the NBA Finals. It's not a given whatsoever. And not to mention, you saw some weaknesses exposed against the Boston Celtics that you want to go ahead and try and cover up. So coming to this offseason, they had their work cut out for them, and so far, they've definitely made some interesting moves. It started off with them trading away Tim Hardaway Jr., dumping his salary to the Detroit Pistons alongside some picks for Quentin Grimes, and they had to get rid of THJ. While he had some good moments throughout the early going of this past season, became pretty unplayable down the stretch, no defense whatsoever, incredibly streaky score. He was either hitting every single bucket imaginable or couldn't buy a bucket if the basket was the size of the ocean. They had to move on from him, and they did, getting off his around $18 million salary to get a young guard in Quentin Grimes, who didn't have a great season with the Pistons after they acquired him at the deadline in that Bojan Bogdanovic trade, but he is, again, still young, and he spent a lot of years of his career as this 3-and-D wing for the Knicks. I'm excited to see him in a new opportunity, and here with the Mavericks, he's going to get better looks than ever playing off Luka and Kyrie Irving, so hopefully this is a spot where he can really find his potential, and I like this a lot as a buy low option for the Mavericks. Additionally, they went ahead and added Naji Marshall to this team. He became the Derek Jones Jr. replacement who ended up signing with the Clippers. It's unfortunate that they lose him, but Naji is a pretty good pickup in replacement. He shot really well from 3 this past season, easily the best shooting year of his career. Overall in his career, he's not a very good shooter, so you hope that this is not the outlier and more so the new norm for him, and if that's the case, this could be an amazing pickup. He gives you some physicality, some size, some really solid defense. I remember in the playoff series against the Thunder, he was playing some of the best defense out of anybody on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so that's a big pickup there. Can guard a number of positions and give you some versatility on that end. And if you're going to lose Derek Jones Jr., I think Naji is one of the best possible guys that was on the market to go ahead and replace him. And then, of course, there's the big move, the one that inspired me to make this video that everybody's talking about. It's Klay Thompson to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Josh Green going out to the Charlotte Hornets, second-round draft capital going to the Warriors, and Klay signing a 3-year, $50 million deal with a player option on the last season. And reportedly, he turned down more money from other teams because he wanted to go to Dallas. This is what I was referring to when I was saying this was a controversial offseason, because I know some people that hate this move and some people that love it. Like even my uncle, who's a big supporter of the Dallas Mavericks, texted me and said, how should I feel about this? Because Klay's in a weird spot in his career where he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Of course, the Warriors are going to retire his jersey. He's a legend. But last year was weird for him because he has really fallen off from his prime days defensively, where he was an all defensive level player. The shot has fluctuated a lot. Last season, it was really down. He kind of found his rhythm, ended up getting benched. And then, of course, we know how it went against the Sacramento Kings in the play-in game, where he shot 0 for 10, which, of course, has become a big meme all across all social platforms, all throughout the NBA landscape. It's a moment where a lot of people are more down on Klay Thompson than ever, but the more that I look at this move, the more that I think it makes a lot of sense for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the initial concern is the defense, because Klay is not a great defender anymore. Derek Jones Jr. was big for them on that end, especially in point of attack back-to-back situations. He was the guy that was like guarding Shea in the series against the Thunder. He has been given most of their big-time defensive matchups. So they're going to have to figure that out. I mean, Jason Kidd has done a good job of making this team really buy into the defensive end, because if you just took a look at the personnel, you might not have guessed that they were this really solid defensive team throughout the playoffs, but Luka was really bought in more than ever. There were still those games where he wasn't very good, but has been way better than he's been at other points in his career. Kyrie Irving had the best defensive season of his career, is really bought in on that, and PJ Washington has leveled up quite a bit. You've got two really solid rim protectors between Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. Najee Marshall is going to help out the defense too, so, and especially like Quentin Grimes could be a factor down there too, so it feels like they've got some good defenders. It's just a matter of, is it going to be a hindrance not having Derek Jones Jr. out there in that starting lineup? So the defense is the bigger question mark, but again, Jason Kidd has found a way to get this team to work on that end, and if they can just be a decent defense, I think they'll be fine, because this offense has the chance to be historic. I mean, you take a look at what they did this past season, where they were killing teams offensively, between Luka being that heliocentric, a lot of times ball handler, but then also Kyrie Irving, who can come in, and while Luka's sitting down, can create a lot of problems of his own. One of the better offensive guards we've seen in a long time. They're really good at diverting the defense's attention down into the paint, kicking out the shooters, throwing the ball around, throwing lobs. They became like the new lob city in this year's playoffs. It was a really fun team to watch. And now they add a threat in Klay Thompson, who is again one of the best shooters of all time. And despite this past year feeling like a down year for him, he still shot about 39% from deep on 9 attempts per game. That's great volume and will be a big boost to this Mavericks offense. In the regular season, they shot the second most threes out of anybody, only behind the Boston Celtics, their eventual finals matchup, but their percentage was a bit more towards the middle of the pack. Now with Klay, you've got a threat that the other team has to keep their eye on at all times, and you give him a second of space, he's going to make you pay. They generated so many corner threes throughout the season, especially after the trade deadline and in the playoffs. If it's Klay in that corner, you cannot give him any space. So Klay being out there is going to generate a lot more looks for Luke and Kyrie that are favorable, because there are a lot of times against Boston where they had to work relentlessly for these looks over and over and over again. They were leaving PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. pretty much wide open on those above the break threes. You can't do that with Klay Thompson. If he's out there, you cannot give him an inch of space, or he's more than likely going to go ahead and make you pay. So that gives Luke and Kyrie way more room to operate. And then for Klay Thompson, he's going to be getting such great looks because of their gravity. You can't, let Luke and Kyrie be on an island too often, or they're going to really pick apart your defense. So if you rotate over for a second, Luka with this great playmaking is going to find him. Kyrie Irving also having that vision can find Klay in the corner. They're great at swinging around so they find the best shot. Klay's got so much experience running off of screens, playing in that Warrior system. He's going to get so many great looks. So even if he dips a little bit, he continues to regress getting up there in age. If Klay can just knock down a really solid percentage of threes, like 38, 39, like he did this past season, and just shoot a ton of them, that's going to be a big boost to this offense, because now you replace Derek Jones Jr., who had his best three-point shooting season of his career, but still wasn't an elite shooter, with, again, one of the best shooters of all time. That could be a game-breaking adjustment for this offense. The more that I take a look at this with the addition of Klay Thompson, this could be the best offense in the entire NBA next season. So you just have a somewhat serviceable defense. In addition to that, this team is a massive threat to once again be one of the better teams in the Western Conference, and has a real shot to win it again next year. Again, there are reservations with that defense. Also, losing Derek Jones Jr.'s athleticism could be a little bit of a blow, because they love to throw those lobs. They love to be high flying. They still do have like Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, PJ, guys that can catch lobs, so I don't think that's the end of the world. But I think the positives outweigh the negatives, and this is a swing the Mavericks should take. Like, this isn't a big contract whatsoever. Again, 3 years, $50 million player option, so it's pretty minimal for a guy in Klay who could make a massive impact if the stars align. And if it doesn't work out, that's an easily tradable contract. You don't really lose too much sleep over that, because you didn't give up any major assets in exchange for Klay Thompson. Again, just Josh Green and some second-round picks. I like this idea a lot. And him in combination with bringing in Naji Marshall, I like the Quentin Grimes addition. You're going to also have just internal development with Luka, despite being one of the best players in the world, still being really young, could be in for the best season of his career with this improved spacing. Him and Kyrie are only going to continue to gel more and more, and I don't think Kyrie's a guy that's going to regress anytime soon, at least not substantially. You're going to get more development from Derek Lively. He is a guy that really could be a swing factor for this team. I hope they let him start shooting a couple threes here and there. He had that one in the finals against the Celtics where it was the first three he made of his entire career, and he just drilled it. It looked easy, and I believe at his draft draft workouts or at the combine or something, he was shooting some threes and it looked good. So I hope they give him some of those opportunities, because that opens up a whole new dynamic where you can run this 5 out. If Lively turns out to be reliable as a threat, you also have now more time for Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington to gel into this system, because they just joined in halfway through the year, and usually you don't see teams that make major acquisitions at the deadline that doesn't translate till the following season. But they made the finals in that first year. They've got an offseason to figure this thing out. You know, you could see development from maybe Quentin Grimes with this new system. Again, Klay, Luka, Kyrie going to get a lot of wide open looks. Jaden Hardy, he's a young player that I'm still high on. I'm excited to see what he can do. I would like to see them fill out the bench a little bit more, because I don't know how I feel about Dante Exum in that system, but there is, again, still time for them to make things happen. They could still bring a player in on a minimum. They could always make deals throughout the season like they did this year. There are a lot of avenues to improve if things aren't going great, and I think, again, the Klay Thompson move in particular is a swing that you've got to go ahead and make. If it turns out to be a mistake, it's minimal risk. I'm excited to see this Mavericks team play next season. I can't wait to see how Klay Thompson looks in this new system. I'm sure also he's fired up to prove people wrong, to show the Golden State Warriors that they made a mistake, being so willing to go ahead and let him walk. Klay might be reinvigorated after last season getting benched. Luke and Kyrie are going to be on a mission to go ahead and avenge last year's finals loss. I'm sure they really want to get over the hump this time. This is a scary team in the Western Conference. As a Thunder fan, definitely one of the biggest threats to my favorite squad in their also pursuit to go after an NBA title. I'm excited to see what the Mavericks do, and overall, I've been a big fan of what they've done this offseason. Mainly, I'm just really excited to watch that offense with Klay playing off of Luka and Kyrie. Again, want to reiterate, I think there's a real shot they're the number 1 offense in the NBA next season. I think they've got a good shot of being firmly in the top 5. I would be shocked if they weren't top 10 at the very least. It's an exciting offseason for the Mavericks so far. Let me know down below in the comments what your thoughts are. Again, I know it's polarizing, specifically the Klay move. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think they did enough to replace Derrick Jones Jr.? Was letting him go a mistake? Are you worried about the defense, the loss of the athleticism in that starting lineup with Klay coming in for DJJ? I'd love to hear your thoughts, but for right now, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. As always, with the offseason here, comment down below any ideas that you want to see me go ahead and make a video about. I am going to be going to Summer League, so I'll be doing some content revolving around that. And of course, as we get later into the summer, I'll be doing some like historic retrospective content, which I usually like to do at this point of the year. So if you have any older players or topics that you want to see me cover, go ahead and comment them down below. Or as always, there's a Google form in my description, which I need to go ahead and take a look at, that you can use to go ahead and submit ideas. But anyways, with all that being said, I appreciate you watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.